Hey, this is Novella Petronella, and just had a couple of things I wanted to talk about tonight. I I don't know if anybody is watching the prices right now. Bitcoin and all the coins, everything's in the red, and so naturally, lots of people are freaking out. Understandably, I mean, I know people have their reactions. And I think it's kind of funny because I've been, while I don't understand it, I definitely do watch some of the technical analysts. And, like over the weeks and weeks, I watch what they talk about and how they analyze the charts and what they think is breaking out and what they think the prices will be and will it go up, will it go down. A lot of them, I hate to say it, but I think they're full of it. Like, I don't think, like this one guy I follow, I think he's pretty sharp. He makes a lot of sense and he's got some good things to say. He's got a pretty good company, helps a lot of people, but he's always, he shows these like fancy graphs and charts, and he's always pointing like, and in his YouTube videos, it'll always say like, warning, make sure you watch, a lot of clickbait, which a lot of YouTubers do. And I watch, I kind of just click around and watch different things so I can get a sense of what people are talking about. And sometimes he's right, but usually it's like you can say anything. He certainly didn't predict this, and I don't know if anybody could have, but it'll go back up again. It's, one of the things that people often say to me, oh, I would buy crypto, but it's so volatile. I'll just stick with the stock market. I'm like, well, take a look at the stock market. How's that working for you? Anyway, the guy that I've been talking to, he does a lot of technical analysis, and he's been, he knows a lot about finance, and he has a company where he helps people like me who are newer to the crypto world. And he's always telling me, look at the pips, the green pips, study the charts. You've got to get into this. And I'm like, do I? Because my brain doesn't work that way. I don't, I work on the other side of the brain. So, things that revolve around like writing and reading and that side of the brain, I can work really well with. But if you're asking me to study charts, I just don't know that I'll ever have that skill. Um, and even if I did, I don't know if I'd want to. I find it really tedious. Anyway, enough about that. I wanted to talk about the idea of money. When people talk about cryptocurrency and people are investing in different coins and XRP being the one that I'm really fond of, and I know a lot of people are. Whatever coin you're into, or maybe they're multiple, there's this theory, that you know and I don't know, that some people talk about this, and it's been written about the idea that your ideas about money really do manifest in your world. So if if you believe that money is hard to come by, you're probably gonna have, you'll be someone who doesn't really show a lot of money in your life. And if you're someone who, it's like there's a saying, a guy with a pocket full of money is gonna tell you, don't worry about the rent. I think that's really true. And years ago, I remember having the experience of working and working and working and always feeling like I just never made enough money. And I remember in this one particular this time I was living in LA, and a friend of mine sent me to this, like, I don't know what she was. She had a chakra table, if that tells you anything. And she wanted me to talk to her about I don't know, LA things, chakra stuff, manifesting. Um, and she did this muscle testing thing. So I went to see her, and she was like, lay on my chakra table. So I laid on the chakra table. She's like, do you feel that? And I said, no. um, anyway, she did some muscle testing with me, and she gave me like a pile of dollar bills, and she said, hold these dollar bills, and I'm gonna do muscle testing on your other arm, and I'm gonna ask you, are you ready is this body ready for wealth? I think that's what she said. And my arm like went limp. And I gave her the money right back and she said, "See, you can't even hold on to money if I give it to you. And your body's telling me and telling you that you're not ready for wealth." Which I was kind of pissed about because I'm like, "Well, what am I supposed to do? My body, if my body's talking, I mean, what I can't make it not do that." So that always kind of stuck with me, but she was right because in that, time period, I had a job where I think I was making like, oh God, like had to be like $11 an hour, whatever it was, at this company I worked at. And, I was college educated, but I really was struggling. I worked at this really dead end job. I was there for 4 years total. I didn't even know what I did. I mean, it was such a confusing job. It just made too much sense. And I would sit with these girls and we would process these orders from these sales guys who worked, for toner rooms selling toner. I don't know. And I remember one time my grandmother said to me, "What is it that you do?" I said, "Grandma, I don't know, but I'm going to find out." And I went back to work and I said, "What is my title?" And they said, "Oh, you're an assignable accounts auditor." I said, "Oh, okay." I still didn't know what that meant. But anyway, I wanted so badly to get out of this job. And this is before like LinkedIn was big and there were lots of opportunities where you could figure out, how to navigate the job market and get out of there. I couldn't get out of this job no matter what I did. And the years went by and I was so frustrated. Like, there's got to be a better job for me. And I remember one day this girl came in and she used to work at this company. This company had people that worked there for 20 years. They're still there. I mean, I'm sure they're still there. And it's years later. Really great bunch of people. You could come to work in your sweatpants. Um, but really just not the kind of job you'd want to stay at forever. And some people did because it was like a big family. I wasn't one of those people. I wanted to get the hell out of there. So anyway, this girl comes in and she was talking to me and she said, "I used to work here and after I left, I got the best job." And I said to her, "How did you get out of here? Like, how did you escape? I can't seem to find an exit plan." Um, and she told me she made a list of her perfect job and everything she wanted in the job. Like, she was really, really specific. As a result of that list, she got that exact job, which I thought sounded pretty simplistic and kind of hokey. But I listened to her because she was a numbers person and I'm not. And numbers people always seem to make sense. Their angles are very, like, very right angle, very sharp, to the point. And she said that her list incorporated everything from type of people she was working with, what she was doing day to day, how far she traveled for the job, um, everything. She really, really just thorough and detailed, and she got that exact job. Anyway, she said, "Look, what do you have to lose? Go home, make your list, and just see what happens." I said, "Okay." So the last thing she told me was, "Don't hold back. Be specific." Anyway, was willing to try anything because I was like ready to pull my hair out. So I went home and I said, "Okay." She said, "Make a list and be specific." And she said, "Don't hold back." So that's exactly what I did. Got out my piece of paper, and started writing. And the first thing on my list was um, traveling the country because this was literally my perfect job. Traveling the country, full-time, permanent job. Um, I wrote, company pays for all my food because at the time it was a choice between am I going to pay my rent this month or am I going to eat? And so it was never both. It was always one or the other. So company pays for all my food was very important to me. So I wrote that down. Um, I gave myself, I think it was like a $20,000 raise, which at that time was a lot of money. Um, so anyway, made this list, forgot about it. A couple of weeks later, a girlfriend of mine calls me and she says, "Hey, I want to meet you for dinner. Come and meet me." And so I met her for dinner and she said, "Listen, I just met with a headhunter yesterday. There's this job. They offered me a second interview. I don't want this job. I think you should take it." So I said, "Well, you can't just give someone a job. And besides, we don't even have the same skill set, you and me." And she said, "Well, don't worry about it. Do you know anything about government affairs?" And I said, "No, I'm a conspiracy theorist. No, I don't." And she said, "That's okay. Don't worry. Just send me your resume. I'm going to fix it up and then I'm going to send it to the headhunter. And I said, okay, I'll do it. So I sent her my resume. She fixed it up a little bit, sent it to the headhunter. Well, I get a call from the headhunter. He wants me to come in for the interview. I was pretty shocked. Had never met with a headhunter. So I met with this guy, and we had a great interview. He's like, you're going to be perfect. I'm sending you to the VP of Government Affairs right away. And I kept saying, what is Government Affairs? I don't even know what that means. Don't worry, you'll be fine. So I meet with the VP of Government Affairs. We had a great interview. He leaves the room for 20 minutes and he says, when I leave the room, I want you to write an essay on, I forgot what the topic was, but I want you to write this essay. I'll come back, I'll check it out, and we'll talk. Writing happens to be one of my top skills. So he leaves the room, write a brilliant essay. He comes back. This is great. We want to hire you. So guess what the job was? The job was traveling the country. I couldn't believe it. This is the first thing he told me. You need to be traveling the country, pitching a detox protocol for drug courts. And I couldn't believe it. That was exactly what I wrote. And the second thing he said was, don't worry, we're going to pay for all your food. Which he said, we'll give you a credit card. And I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me. And at the finality of the interview, he said, how is this salary? And he showed me a piece of paper, and it was the exact number that I had written. So this might sound coincidental, but to me, I knew that there was something to that. And that was a lesson that propelled me into everything that I do today. So I ended up becoming a career consultant. And that's what I do for people. So now I use this with my clients and I tell them, and I have clients that are everything from, CFOs to administrative assistants to, marketing managers, doesn't matter. I tell them, this might sound simplistic, but I tell them this story and I say, if you want to be specific, you're probably going to have better luck, because what I've realized, and this story does have a point ultimately. I'll get to it eventually, I'm sure, maybe in an hour. But what I've realized, over the years in my career, I've spoken to a few thousand people at least, and I speak to people all day, every day about their career and their choices. And what I've realized is that a lot of people, they leave a job after being there for a year, 5 years, 10 years, 40 years sometimes. And what happens typically, not always, but typically, is they leave this position and they kind of stumble around like, okay, who's going to take me now? And their thought process is, who wants me? Who will hire me? And they're trying to fit themselves into what's already out there. Most of them, again, not all, but most of them do not sit down and think about, what do I want to do? And so some of them, this is a very new and unique concept of the idea of like, what do I want? Getting that down on paper and then launching into a search. And this applies to everything. It's not just jobs. It applies to places to live, neighborhoods, relationships. I mean, you can do this for anything. So I've done this with many people and I've talked to my clients about it. And I said, look, just try it. Because a lot of people are kind of like, well, this is what I've always done. This is what I'll do. Instead of, this is what I really want to do. So, I mean, I've seen people make a shift from having a, 50, 60-hour a week job. And one woman, she wanted to have a chicken coop. That was her dream. And that's what she did. And that's what she's doing now. I've seen some really incredible shifts out of it. It also applies to money. So that's where this whole thing comes full circle, which is, I think what pushes a lot of people away from investing in anything, doesn't have to be cryptocurrency and XRP. That's just what I'm talking about. But I think what keeps a lot of people away from it, including people that I talk to, is their relationship to money. A lot of people are not comfortable with having money, and whether they know it or not, some people do and some don't. This is a really, really, really big opportunity, because digital currency is going to be, and it's already happening, it's going to be in our future, whether we like it or not. It's going to be integrated in everything we do. I mean, if you look at Venezuela, they're using Dash after their market, oh God, just totally went to hell. Dash is a big part of their everyday doing. You know, they're using it for restaurants and they're using it to buy gasoline, and so it's just kind of interesting what's happening all over the place. And I think if people are not comfortable with money, they're not going to hold on to it, and they're certainly not going to invest in it. And if they know, you know, even the people that I've spoken to about XRP or, you know, any cryptocurrency, you know, you can kind of pick one. A lot of them are going to do well. They're not comfortable with the idea of wealth. And I think that's something to think about, you know, like what is your relationship to money, and are you cool with making some money in the probably near future? Let's say the next year, two, five. Um, if you're not, you know, it'll slip through your fingers. Um, or you won't get involved. You'll do something else, or you'll proclaim, you know, life is hard and work sucks and this is what I have to do. Maybe that's your situation. I don't know. But I thought this was worth mentioning because this was my personal, it's anecdotal, but this was my experience. And I've seen so many people, I always make my clients come back and tell me after they make their list. Because a lot of them don't believe it. I said, just make your list, make the stupid list, and then come back and tell me where you ended up. And tell me how close it was to your list. Mine are usually 85 to 95% accurate. I've done them for everything from jobs to houses. I have all my lists that I've made, and most of them are very, very accurate. I had one guy, last guy I spoke to about this, and his dream was to work for Microsoft. And he just, no matter what he did, he couldn't get into Microsoft. So, made a list, and I don't remember I think he was a product manager or something. But anyway, when people circle back around to tell me where they ended up, it usually starts with "You're not going to believe this." So he he called. He said, "You're not going to believe this. You know, not only did I get an interview with Microsoft, but three of the four people in the interview were people that I used to work with at my last company." So he's like, "I'm a shoe-in." Anyway, just interesting stuff, things to think about. Um, you know, this might all sound very esoteric, but you know, I don't care. I don't. There's not like many people listen to this channel. It's stuff that I'm passionate about, and I just think that it's really cool to get clear on what it is you want. You know, if you invest in a coin like XRP and it takes off in the next, you know, year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever, um, you know, what do you want to do? Might be good to have that just kind of logged down somewhere, or at least, you know, have it in your mind. I think you'd be amazed at what can come out of that. Not a bad exercise to do. Anyway, thanks for listening, and see if I can close this. I still haven't figured out how to use this. Good night.